and they're all vastly different. And it's almost impossible to move from one economic class to another if you don't have knowledge of those hidden rules. And so we're going to talk about the hidden rules, and I think that really is one of the most important pieces of bridges. And it really opens your eyes to some of those things like Teresa saw the people in front of her time and time again, and it was because of those hidden rules that she was seeing them. This is one of the hidden rules on time. And this gives you all three economic classes, and this tells you time is looked at differently in each one of these economic classes. In poverty, the present time is the most important because they're always what we call in the tyranny of the moment. They're dealing with a concrete issue that they have to find a concrete solution to, and they have to do that right now. And their decisions are based on survival because that's what they're doing. They're surviving. And it's normally based on feelings as well. When we move to middle class, the future is most important. We're planning for our future, and the decisions that we make today are based on future ramifications. When it comes to wealth, I mean, traditions are involved, history, those things are most important, and decisions are made partially on the basis of that tradition or decorum. So interesting how time is looked at differently depending on the economic class that you're in. Language, and we'll get to language because it deserves a section all on its own. So we will talk about that. That's one of those resources. But in poverty, people use the capital register. Their language is about survival. It's basically telling you enough so you understand what they need so that they can get that and move on to the next issue. Middle class, we speak in formal register. Our language is used to negotiate. And then in wealth, they're going to use formal register as well, but that language is about networking. What connection can I hook up with? How can we get some things accomplished through that connection? Power. Power is looked at differently among the economic classes. In poverty, it's linked to personal respect. And we'll learn about driving forces, and you'll understand a little bit more what that means. The ability to fight, and people in poverty think that they're fated. They can't stop bad things from happening to them. I'm in poverty, this is how my life is, I have no control over those things. But they learn differently in getting ahead. In middle class, power and respect are separated. Just because you have a position that requires you to be respected, it doesn't mean in our eyes that they have power. Response to position, power, and information in institutions. People in poverty don't quite trust institutions because normally they're not getting treated the way they feel they should when they walk inside those doors. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Wealth, powers and expertise and connections. Power is stability to people who are wealthy. And influence, they influence policy and direction. And then money. This is the biggest one. Everybody thinks that poverty is a money thing, right? If they just had money, they'd be out of poverty. Well, what's going to happen if they have the money, but they don't have the mental capacity to know what to do with that money? They're still going to be in poverty. So there are 11 resources that we're going to talk about that we feel ties an individual to poverty. But money in poverty is to be used or spent and oftentimes shared with family members, with people who live in your household, because a lot of times in poverty people are doubled up. Doubled up just means more than one family lives together. And so it's community money at that point. In middle class, we like to manage our money. We like to save our money. And in wealth, obviously, they're very conservative and they invest money. So buying the big screen TV, a lot of times we ask ourselves or see a household that's living in poverty. We see a big screen TV in there, yet they don't have money to feed their families. Well, part of that is some of the hidden rules that we'll talk about. But people in middle class, what do we do when we need a break? What do we do? Anybody?
Watch TV.
Take a vacation. People in poverty cannot afford to take a vacation, so their vacation is being able to watch the television. So those are some things that we'll talk about as well. When it comes to worldview, this is just, a basic example. People in poverty, they see the worldview just from the local setting. Most people in poverty haven't traveled outside of their town. So what they think is going on in the world is what they see in front of them. The people that live in their neighborhood, the stores that they shop out, the relationships that they have. That's the worldview for them. So if Mary down the street, she watches some TV and she might know about what's going on They hear what's going on that way. People in poverty tend to watch things that are funny on TV. It's not of interest to them to watch maybe CNN or Fox News or whichever of those you prefer. And then in wealth, people in wealth see everything from an international view because a lot of them have homes in other countries. They're fluent in other languages, and they just have the financial capabilities to see the world. Driving forces, and this we're going to spend some time talking about these driving forces. In poverty, it's all about relationships, survival, and entertainment. So people in poverty survive based on the relationships that they have. If you live in your neighborhood and you don't have a reliable car, you may depend on Mac down the street to get you to and from. So you're nice to Mac, you treat him with respect, he treats you with respect, you're able to get to work, which enables you to make money to pay your bills. There again, you're surviving. And then that entertainment factor. In poverty, if you have a sense of humor, you're able to make better relationships. And that's one of the things, we count on those relationships. So if you can make people laugh and they like you, they're going to form a relationship with you, and you're going to be able to use them as, your way of surviving, whether it be getting you somewhere, watching the children, things of that nature. In middle class, it's all about achievement and work, having that material security. We go to school to get a diploma. We graduate high school, we go off to college, we get a diploma. We love our certificates in middle class. We want to hang them on the wall for the world to see. We're proud of those. And that's great. But if you don't know that, or if you don't, and by the way, our society is based on middle class norms. So if you're in poverty, you're already disadvantaged because you don't know about those middle class norms. So it's hard for you to maneuver in society. But in middle class, we go to work, we want to get promoted, we want to get those achievement certificates so we can hang those on the wall because they're important to us. That's what validates us, and we can secure our materials. And in wealth, it's financial, political, social connections. So that connection piece is the driving force. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give you some information that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So those are the driving forces. Now what I'm going to show you next, there are going to be some mental models. We use mental models a lot. Mental models are just a picture that helps us really kind of remember things a little bit better. So the first one we're going to look at is the mental model of poverty. And you'll see in this mental model that relationships go across the center because we found out that what relationships are the driving force. Some of the things that you're going to see inside the circle, those are things that people in poverty deal with every day. And I'll just read a few of them. I'll read from up there, but I can't see that far. So debt is big in poverty. Transportation, not having something reliable, or you may have to use the neighborhood car or the public transportation system. Most people in poverty don't have their own vehicle. Family and friends, safety, jobs, health, chemical dependency, mental health, criminal justice system. You're going to see one in there that looks really funny and you're going to wonder what it is. Agency time. Does anybody know what that is? Agency time is the time that a person in poverty spends just going to get that food assistance, going to talk to child support. Has anyone ever had to do that? You spend a lot of time in an agency, right? Because every place you go, you're going to go to Job and Family Services, you're going to fill out a 10-page form, you're going to turn it in, and they're going to say, oh, we can't help you today. Thank you for filling out the form and waiting here for a couple of hours. We're going to send you down the street, and by the way, when you get there, you're going to have another 10-page form that you're going to have to fill out. Agencies don't communicate with one another, so what happens is people end up filling out forms, they're duplicating information, and one of the things that we'd like to see are the institutions locally talking to one another, simplifying the forms, or at least making them universal. So the same, you're not filling out the same form all day long, because that's time you could be using, to find a job, to take care of things at the home, and agency time burns up a lot of time for individuals. Oftentimes, if you look at the bottom, those businesses listed, these are the businesses you're going to find in a poverty-stricken neighborhood. Pawn shops, liquor stores, the little corner convenience store that overprices. Everything in there is overpriced. Rent-to-own, laundromat, fast food, these check cashing places that we've seen popping up a lot, temporary services, used car lots, and dollar stores. People in poverty get exploited on a regular basis, and those corner stores that have the higher prices, they know that most of those individuals, their only way to get to the store is by walking. And if that store's in the neighborhood, it's convenient for them to get there, they're going to pay that price. That's a form of exploitation. So, and we're going to talk about that too when we get to our study groups. This is the mental model of middle class. We've got achievement across the center because that was our driving force. You're going to see the things inside of the circle. Some of the things are duplicated from poverty to middle class. You know, they have health. We have health to worry about. In poverty or middle class, chemical dependencies, mental health. But a couple of things I want you to notice. Careers you find in that circle. We found jobs in poverty. Okay? There's a big difference between a job and a career. Another thing that I'd like you to pay attention to are like the clubs and civics groups. We didn't find that in poverty as well. Okay? And no agency time here. Because most times in middle class, we don't need to go to those agencies. They're going to take up a lot of our time. Businesses look different. You'll see the shopping malls, not the convenience stores, office complexes, coffee shops, bookstores, health and fitness centers. We take care of our pets in middle class. We spend a lot of money on our pets in middle class, I would venture to guess. And the next one we'll just kind of breeze through. It is the one for wealth. And again, you're going to see things in there that'll be a little bit different than the other two that you've seen. Vacationing, keeping up with the Joneses. That's not me though, I promise. Keeping up with the Joneses. Charitable activities, giving back. They do a lot of giving back in wealth. All right, now we're going to get to that language part that I was telling everyone about. These are the different registers of language. Frozen, I think everyone has come across frozen register. It's those things that are always the same. The Lord's Prayer, weddings, things like that. Formal register, that's the register that we use in middle class. And that's just where the standard sentence syntax and word choices are what are preferred at work and school. Okay? They have a complete and specific word choice. When we go to consultative, it is formal register, but that is used to negotiate sometimes. We'll go to casual. Casual register is what people in poverty use. It's very limited language. It's a language that you would speak to your friends with, a lot of slang words, a lower word choice, 400 to 800 word vocabulary, and the word choice is general, not specific at all, and it really depends a lot on nonverbals. I was talking to Tammy about nonverbals. That's one thing. People in poverty read nonverbals. And you can offend someone in poverty without even knowing that you're offending them. But when they go into those agencies, where our agency time is, if your hands are folded like this, and you're not really smiling when you come in, what does that say to that person when they walk in the door? Negative. Don't talk to them. They must be mad. They're mean. And so people in poverty, when they walk up to approach that person, they're already going to have a guard up because their nonverbal said, I don't want to deal with you today. And so we have to be really careful and acknowledge those nonverbals that we use. A smile goes a long way and really helps with things like that. And then the intimate language. Normally, it's really hard for a person to move either up or, you can move up or down one, but going any more than that, it's really hard. So to go from casual to formal register, that is something that you have to practice. If you typically use that casual register, you can learn how to use the formal register, but without having those hidden rules, you wouldn't even realize there were different forms of language. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And again, just the two different forms of language there. This is some research that's been done about language. This is very interesting. If we look at the economic groups there, and then we look at the number of words that the children are exposed to from ages 1 to 4, if you look at welfare or the poverty-stricken economic group, those children are exposed to 13 million words. They get one positive thing, or an accolade, affirmation, one positive for every 2 negative. So as you see, they're already it's unbalanced. They hear more negative than positive. When we go to that working class or middle class, those children, look at the jump in words. 26 million words they're exposed to. positives for every one negative. So that's much better. They're hearing positive things, not so much negative. But if we go down to that wealthy economic class, those children are exposed to 45 million words. They get 6 positives for every negative. So when children start school, those who are in poverty, we would see already that they're probably going to be behind. And in our community, they've done a lot of research here locally, and one of the things that they're doing is the movement with reading to the children from birth to 3, and then, they've always talked about that from 3 and up. But they're finding that 20 minutes a day to those younger children, the more vocabulary they're using, they're going to start school a little more prepared. So interesting. Did anybody else find that interesting? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of words, though. I never would have known, to be exposed to that many words. All right. We're going to move to our Getting Ahead class. Getting Ahead is a class that is really generated to support someone who has struggled in generational poverty. In this class, we talk a lot about causes of poverty, taking a look at our life now, where we are at in the grand scheme of change. Change is scary, very uncertain, and so we really discuss that a lot to make sure everyone is prepared for that. We talk about those hidden rules, and we talk about resources in the class as well. We are going to talk about those resources now. Getting Ahead is just a program that supports people in poverty to create their own plan. We do not create a plan for someone. As they go through this book, they go through the 11 resources that we've talked about. They do a self-assessment to find out where they are with each of these 11 resources. They'll find that some of their resources are strong, just as I mentioned before. They'll find that some of the resources are weak. So what they'll do is use those strong resources to help elevate the weaker ones, because if we're a little more level in all those resources, we're able to then grow and get ahead. But if we have those weaker resources dragging us down, that's a lot of times what keeps us in poverty. So we'll look at those resources, just a little more information about Getting Ahead. That class is a 9-week class. It's twice a week. And the individuals come in kind of scared at first, I think. They don't know what to expect. Heather, she'll be talking to you a little bit later. She's gone through our Getting Ahead class. They're kind of scared, a little bit guarded, because they're thinking, what's this really about? And then the class that Heather was in, Judge Ballinger was one of our facilitators. So that would probably be intimidating to most people. You've got a judge in there, and then you think, well, what's she in here for? What's she doing? And things like that. So you're a little, guarded when you come in. But one thing that happens throughout the course of the class, those walls start to come down. The individuals teach the facilitators more than we could ever teach them. And they really start to build relationships, which are really key. They become really good friends with the individuals in their class, and sometimes just as close as family. So that's the really unique part of Getting Ahead. We have a diverse group in the class. We don't have a class that's filled with all one certain type of person. By that I mean whether it's your age, whether it's where you work, whether it's your past, if you've ever had a record, things like that. We have a diverse group. This class, we're right now in our 9th Getting Ahead class. We have individuals who are 19. We have individuals who are 40. So it just depends on where you are and everything in between. When we get to that discussion piece in the Getting Ahead class is when they really begin to learn. They talk to one another. And these are just some things that they're able to do in that Getting Ahead class. These are the resources. And I won't read the definition of each one. We'll just tell you what they are. Financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, support systems we now call social capital, relationships and role models, knowledge of the hidden rules that we talked about earlier, and then these are some new things that we brought on as well. Integrity and trust, motivation and persistence, and then instead of formal register, we call it language. It has its own resource in the book. But these are the resources that we're talking about. So you can see that financial was just one of those resources. So you have to be well-rounded in all of these resources in order to get yourself into the next economic class. And so with that, we're going to talk a little bit about how the relationship starts. We said that relationships were at the center of the driving force of poverty. And for someone in middle class, that might seem a little uncomfortable. Why do we need to have this relationship? But what we need to do is really begin to listen to one another occurs when we're able to communicate better and people are not talked at, but they are able to talk and have the chance to talk. And that's one thing that we believe in at Marion Matters. In order to make a change in our community, all Freds need to be at the table. And by that we mean the Fred from poverty, the Fred from middle class, and the Fred from wealth. It does no good for a bunch of middle class people to sit at a table and make policies and procedures that they're never going to use. We'll use transportation, for example, the Marion Area Transit System. Middle class people figure out when that schedule runs. Middle class people's schedules are normally 8:30 to 4:30. That's when our bus runs. People in poverty don't have the luxury of working those hours. They may have to work at Walmart. They may be able to get to work, but they can't get home from work. But if that Fred from poverty is able to sit down with those middle class and wealthy individuals who schedule the buses, how much more could we accomplish in the community? And we've done just that. One of our action teams was a transportation team. We started out from our community analysis, which we'll talk about at our monthly meetings. They formed a team that wanted to make a change with transportation because they noticed that it's a big deal. Hey, I get to work, but then I have to walk home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in the snow and in the rain. So we conducted a survey, spread it around in Marion. We got about 656 of our 1,100 surveys back, which we thought was pretty good. And from that, we got a lot of information. We took that to the city. And Jeff Marsh, who runs Marion Air Transit, he's a coordinator there, and Jay Shoup, they were willing to sit down and talk with us. So they got our information, and now, after years of us working together and talking, we have been invited to represent the Fred from poverty on the decision-making table with Marion Area Transit. How exciting is that? I mean, that's what this whole movement is about. We start with the individual, we go back to our institutions, we talk about the things we can do, we begin to see changes in our community. And those policy changes will only be made if all of those Freds are at the table. So that's really exciting for us. That was a big deal. We also have a felony assistance team. Those guys were on fire for the longest time. A couple of their things that they were able to get accomplished in the community was the ban the box, the felony box that you'll see on most applications. But they were able to talk with the city of Marion and Marion County. If you were to apply for any of those jobs, that felony box is not on that application. That gives the individual the opportunity to have the interview because, if they've got felony checked, what happens to that application? Are they going to get a phone call that's going to go in a file of maybes or, let's stuff it over here for now because we can't just throw it away? So this at least gets them in the door. They do have to be honest, if they're asked, and that may be a question that's asked, but they at least get in the door and have the opportunity, and that was because of the hard work of the felony assistance team. No significant learning occurs without a significant relationship, and that is truly what we believe. And we work really hard to form those relationships. One of those pieces is our ally relationships. If you've gone through the Bridges Out of Poverty training, you can go through the class, learn all you need to know about Bridges, and then if you really want to make a change in your community, you can become a Bridges ally. A Bridges ally is a person who's gone through Bridges Out of Poverty. They're normally from middle class or they're a community leader. They get paired up with a Getting Ahead ally, which is someone who's gone through the Getting Ahead class. Those two pair together, and that Bridges ally becomes an intentional friend to an under-resourced person who has just learned about hidden rules, who's just learned about resources, and now they find out this world that I've been struggling in for this whole time is based on middle class norms. Well, if I'd known that from the time I was little, things maybe could have gone differently. Now they're paired with that person who understands and has worked, in those middle class norms. So if they have a question, the Getting Ahead ally can call the Bridges ally just to kind of help them maneuver through, whether it's filling out an application, making a resume, applying for college. Those are just a few things that, those Bridges allies have done. One that I thought was really cool, one of our ally pairings, the girl starts her first professional job. This is our Getting Ahead ally. And she calls her Bridges ally and says, am I supposed to bring pens and paper to work? Because she didn't know that they would have those, it's customary they'd have those pens and now they're more like just family. You know, she's not having to call her as much, but she would call. Just little things like that pop up, things that we take for granted. We know what's acceptable to wear to work, and we know that they're going to have pens and paper when I get there. But those are just the little things that someone who had struggled in poverty and working their way through just didn't have the knowledge of that. So you've got a packet there in front of you. It's got some information about our upcoming dates. Um, One of those things is our monthly meeting that you'll see. I think it's on your second page, or no, it's on your first page. Our monthly meeting is always the second Thursday of the month. That is where we did our community analysis. And how we did that is we made a mental model of Marion's current reality, both positive and negative. And from there, we took the items that we thought we could work on as a group, and we formed study groups. So if you had passion about the predatory lending, there was a group formed for that. There was also one for sober living and detox for Marion, because we know there's a drug issue, not just here, but everywhere. But we wanted to address that. And then also affordable housing that is acceptable. And, you know, those were some things that we really formed out of this last community analysis. The predatory lending, it sounds kind of scary, but what that is, the check cashing places, payday lenders, they exploit individuals in poverty because they know they can't go to a traditional bank and get money. Most times they're going in, they don't need a large sum of money, they need to get their car fixed. So they get stuck into these places, which are a cycle. You get the loan, you pay it off on payday. Now you need money to pay your bills, so you take the loan back out, pay it on payday. The cycle continues. That's predatory, and they count on those individuals. The title loans, you trade in your car title and you get some money. And then if you don't pay it off, they can keep your car. You know, those are some things that we're investigating right now because we've had two pop up in Marion and we didn't know enough about it. So our study group is working on that. And then sober living and detox, we're actually going to partner up. There are a lot of places in Marion who are addressing that. But the sober living part and the detox part, we don't have a place where someone can go and be detoxed. Because in order to get, I don't know if anyone's heard of Vivitrol. It's the newest thing. We just got a grant in the city of Marion to do the Vivitrol for heroin addicts. It blocks that craving of the heroin, but you have to be completely detoxed before you can have it. It can be deadly if not. So we're really working on that detox part of it. And then volunteering. I mean, there are many. If you look at that second sheet, it talks about volunteering. Those ally pieces, that's geared more towards a Bridges ally. If you can't become an ally, you can help with food preparation, whether it's picking it up or preparing it for our classes, for our monthly meetings. We always like to feed individuals in poverty, and we also like to provide childcare because those are two big barriers to getting them there to hear the information. A lot of times I can't come because I don't have anywhere to take my children. So we always have childcare free of charge, and we always feed them so they don't have to worry about that. Transportation is big, helping get the individuals to and from the meetings, to and from work, different things like that. Childcare, the same thing, helping with that. I would say probably the next one on the list, facilitator. That's the most important. And if you ever have the time and you could facilitate one of our Getting Ahead classes, it will change your life. Your eyes will become open. You will start to see your fellow citizen through a different lens. And that really will help you to understand what Bridges is all about if you can become a facilitator. We're facilitating our 9th class now. The 10th one starts in September. So if anybody, would like to get involved with that, those are volunteer forms. Fill those out if you want to today. I'll collect that. If you want to send it to me, I think my address is on there. We're always in need of volunteers. If I didn't have my volunteers, I could not reach as many who struggle in our community. We are volunteer and membership based. So that next sheet is a membership application, some information there as well. Just some things to think about. And then the study groups that we were talking about. If you are able to come to our monthly meeting and one of those groups sounds of interest to you, we're always looking for expertise in those who want to go out and investigate. We like to investigate and figure out what the scoop is on that before we decide we're ready to take action. So we do a lot of investigating beforehand. Our plans for 2014 are to continue understand that sometimes, but this financial literacy piece is really kind of the future for us, I think. If we can get more people plugged in here, we're able to get them bank accounts. A lot of times, check systems, I don't know if you've heard about that. When you go to open a bank, they run you through check systems to find out if you've ever mismanaged a bank account before. If you've ever done that, they'll say, sorry, we can't open an account for you. But we've partnered up with the credit union, Marion Community Credit Union, and if they go through the financial literacy class, they can open up an account even if they've had a hit in check systems. So that kind of gives them a second chance. If they manage their account well for 6 months, they deposit $25 into that account for them just as an incentive to keep doing a good job. The next piece that we're going to add in 2014 is called the R rules. The R rules is a getting ahead that's geared towards middle school and high school kids. And we're going to partner up with Boys and Girls Club and the Family Court to really start educating the kids and being a little more proactive. Getting ahead is a little reactive to situations that people have been in the majority of their life. A great program, but people say, had I known that earlier, maybe I wouldn't have traveled down that road. So that's what the R rules is for. And one of the mandates for this will be the child goes through the R rules, and at the same time, the parent's going to have to go through getting ahead so that at home they're on the same page. It does no good to have the child go through the R rules if mom and dad say, I don't see value in that, I'm not going to change anything. That's crazy. So we want them to go through that together so that they're on the same page when they go home and they are able to make some changes. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll answer them. If not, we'll turn it over to Heather. Heather is one of our graduates of Getting Ahead. She graduated in our November of 2013 class, and Heather is going to talk to us about what that class meant to her and some of the ways that it has changed her life. Did you have a question? I thought I saw hands. Maybe not. Does anybody have any questions? All right, well, let's give a hand for Heather.
Hi. Pretty much what Heidi, I could listen to her talk all day, every day. Pretty much I was one of those people that kept repeating in front of Teresa Ballinger. And I had a friend that went through I can't remember it, Thinking for a Change, and I went to one of her graduations, and she kind of told me about what class consisted of, and I just was so interested, so I talked to my probation officer about it and Teresa about it, and they referred me. And when I took the class, I was a waitress at Denny's, I almost said Perkins, Denny's, and I now have a job as a supervisor at a hotel. So this class has given me, with the hidden rules, the language, I was one of those people that didn't know really where to go. I grew up in poverty as a child, and then I went to middle class after my mom died. My dad's been in prison, so there's that generation just of pretty much not going anywhere. We just were stuck with tyranny of the moment. And once I started the class, I put everything into it, and what I got out of it was so much more, because I have a 2-month-old son right now, and everything that I've learned, I don't want him to have to go through what I went through. And I wrote something, so I'm just going to read that. And I actually, because they kept asking a question, Teresa did, in the class I took, and what the class meant to me and what I got most out of it. So I'm just going to read that, because it pretty much sums up everything that I've learned throughout the course of the past 7-8 months. A question was asked of all of us to answer tonight, and that is, what stood out to me most about the class? Well, a statement was made at the very beginning that, in my eyes, allowed me to build a foundation for all the information I received. Knowledge is power. When I heard this, and then through our book, I couldn't find just one thing that stuck out the most. One of the main reasons why I came to this class was because I felt powerless, stuck in the tyranny of the moment, not getting anywhere. I could not detach myself from the thought of always living paycheck to paycheck and never moving forward in my life. When I received the knowledge of abstract thinking, and the poverty comes from so many different areas and situations, not just because I failed and made bad decisions, it gave me hope for once. It allowed me to think that financial literacy and security is attainable. And with the right resources and knowledge, I could actually get off the treadmill of just getting by and be able to be a contestant in this race of life. Understanding the hidden rules of each economic class and that my language can change the judgments that have been put upon me, allowing me to create relationships of mutual respect with those who I've bridged social capital with, permitting me to be seen not as a failure but as someone who has the knowledge that empowers them to be accepted by those who I felt I was beneath. I no longer have to take the back door in my life, being predictable to everyone around me. This class has given me the persistence and opportunity to set and succeed in the goals I have set for myself. And that's exactly what I've done since then. I've accomplished 1.5 goals so far. And I'm getting ready. I got my license back after 4 years because of Heidi and my ally. And my ally, it was just a weird situation how we met. She knew my family previous and we had no idea. So when she became my ally, she didn't really know anything about addiction or, you know what I mean, poverty or anything like that. So the fact that she's willing to learn with me and anything that she can't help me with, she sends me to the people that I can. And like I said, since then, since I wrote this, I was in meetings all day today with people that I would have never been able to get up and talk to. So that's everything that, I mean, role model wise, I look up to Heidi so much in my ally because I never had anybody like that. Everybody has just been in that tyranny of the moment and just getting by pretty much. And now I can make goals. I'm not in middle class, but I look for my future while still doing my everyday thing because I have to find childcare before I go to work in the morning and find a ride to and from and everything like that. But I also have those goals for the future. I'm getting ready to get a car because of the pipeline and a house in 4 months. So that's pretty much what it's done for me. And I came so far. I've had 18 months addiction free and have not been in front of Teresa since then. So along with what she's done for me and what the class has done for me, like I can't say I have any fears of going forward or being in that middle class. And I think that's it.
Well, thank you. Talk about her story. And one of the things they learn how to do is set goals in that Getting Ahead class. And it was based on her own resources. And so they set 3 goals. She's accomplished 1 and she's halfway on her way to 2 and 3. So because of the class, because of Bridges Out of Poverty and our community movement, Heather has been able to pair up with a volunteer ally who's taken the time to really walk alongside her and not talk at her, but she's been able to make a change. That is why we do what we do. And with that, I'd like to share a video with you. This video contains pictures of some of our Getting Ahead allies. Some of them are during the class time. You may see some familiar faces. One of our Getting Ahead allies has had an opportunity. She was asked to speak at Bridges National, which is really big. It's all the Bridges movements and communities around the United States. We meet together once a year to have a national convention. And because of the work on the felony assistance team, she was invited to speak there. What an honor for a graduate who came from the prison system to now be speaking at a national level. So I would like you to take a look at these. Hopefully the music's loud enough and you can hear that. Share some information. Well, I don't know what I'm doing here. Maybe I better just tell you. I'll turn on things I probably shouldn't turn on. I thank you for having us here tonight. I hope that you did learn something, and I honestly do. I encourage you to do something. If you're able to volunteer, be a part of a movement that's really making some. We're blazing some trails in this community. We can't do it without you, and this is something that I always say. Together, we can make a difference in Marion. So thank you so much.
And Heidi, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for your passion.
Oh,
You're just
you're
full of it.
welcome. Thank you.
And first of all, I want to give you my volunteer paper that I fill
Thank
out.
you.
And also, our group has had a fundraiser, and the board members voted on what we should do with that. So we would like to give you a check for $100.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We sure appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's so nice to meet you.
I thought I might add that really do appreciate Heidi coming out, appreciate being and volunteering your time. Our college here has been a big investment too. Mitch Lipster
Mhm.
is on our board of trustees,